hello, and welcome to the UpSet podcast. We're so happy that you tuned in this Sunday, and we are live and happy to be here. And when I say we, I'm talking about this crew.
Yes.
Hey, guys.
The Sunday afternoon quartet.
Exactly. And of course, we have a new face here. And
Thank you very much. I got a little work done, but appreciate the acknowledgement.
We're happy
You
to
look
have
good. You look good.
Yes, he does, doesn't he? But we are happy to have another new face. Amy, welcome, is joining us. Just
Hi.
by way of introduction, Amy is a recent addition to the communication department at Allegheny East Conference. He's a communication and media specialist. And so I told her, hey, if you're working with this department, you got to get your feet wet. And one of the ways you do that is hop in on the UpSet podcast. So please welcome Amy to the podcast this Sunday. Welcome, Amy. And yes, her last name is Welcome. So it's always awkward to say
Do we
welcome.
get to hear a
Amy,
word
welcome.
from her? Does she say anything? I mean,
Amy, tell them a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, Nick, no, I'm only kidding.
If that's it, that's fine.
I'm only kidding. No, Amy, please.
Well, I am from the Cayman Islands.
Whoa.
Yes. Oh, right. You don't know anything about me.
Nothing. I mean, wow.
Yes, I'm from the Cayman Islands. I work with Natasha, like she said, in the communication department.
We're going to hold that against you.
I have 5 sisters. That's
wow.
Always something people, they
Cayman Islands
want to know. And I went to Southern for my bachelor's in graphic design, and I did my master's in communication at Andrews University. So,
wow.
Yes.
Well, I mean, there's an instant connection. I was married at Southern in Collegedale.
Were you really?
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, I was doing a master's in communications at Andrews before the General Conference kicked me out. maybe go back to an MDiv. And so, yes,
they actually had dual programs there when I was there, but sadly,
I was there when the apostles were young.
But no, thanks for joining us, Amy. We hope that your first night with us will be a pleasant one. And we of course want to say hello to all of our people out there. We've been pre-recording for a few weeks now, so it's great to see you guys. We hope you're doing well. Please come and say hello to us and let us know where you're watching from. We love to hear from you guys. But in the meantime, so as you can see, there are 4 of us. There is a conference that happens. Is it every year? The one
every year?
Yeah. Convocation? Is it a convocation or just at Hampton?
It's the preacher. It is the preachers. What is it? An institute, Pat? Or
it's preaching. It's preaching. It's organ. It's music. It's just a bunch of preachers and singers out there
getting together, having a good time. So it's like Pelk on steroids. Like
exactly. Pelk actually replicated
the
Hampton Preachers Institute, and I mean, for years it has been the universal center of Black preaching during the year, and it's where you go to learn how to say God. In
different languages?
No, just God. You can't go to Amy. In the Adventist church, you can go and say, "The Lord has sent me," or "God is with us." When you go beyond the borders of Adventism, you have to tell people, "I'm here because God sent me."
Yes, it's different. It's a pulpit God.
There you go.
And so 2 of our upsetters are attending that. So we can't wait to hear how this particular conference went this year. I know they're going to come back with nuggets. They always come back rejuvenated.
Because neither one of them know how to say God yet. So
we're going to test them when they come back.
We have to test
say God.
I feel like I should let everyone know that my name is not spelled AMY, but it's AIMEE. Just in case anyone was wondering.
how to write the check. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. So we got people watching from Virginia, Huntsville, Fayetteville.
Now, Havis, is it Havis Bardui
Yes.
or Bardia?
Bardui.
That's an interesting. I mean, talking about pronunciations, it's absolutely French for sure, but beautiful poetry to the name.
Yes. He's
good guy. He does.
Do you know him, Pat?
Financial. He does like financial awareness.
How do you pronounce his last name?
I don't pronounce his last name.
You did it right, Bardui.
He just says the first name. That's it.
Okay.
Bardui.
Here he is. He gave it to us.
Bardui. Yeah. There you go.
He said it is French. So
he goes to the Petersburg Church, Tally.
Shiloh.
Shiloh.
He's the communication director there.
Oh, nice.
Bardui. My brother was an alumnus of Virginia State College in Petersburg.
Oh, wow. And hello, Mabel. And welcome, Amy, with that. Yes.
The other Amy.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. All right, guys. So what else is going on besides a hallelujah good time at Hampton?
Well, it should be noted that it is LGBTQIA month, or better known as Pride Month, and that during this month, La Sierra University has taken it upon itself to celebrate the accomplishments of members of the LGBTQIA community who are part of the Adventist Church. And it has ignited a firestorm of pushback. And it is something that the church is going to have to deal with. Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. I just walked into the store earlier today. And of course, the first thing that greeted me was, all of the Pride Month paraphernalia. And, because, a lot of businesses want to make sure that's front and center during this month. We support. But when the church is involved, that's always I feel like that's where we kind of get a little tense because, eyes are on us. What are we going to say about it? I know we even talked about having a show on, how do we respond? How do we interact with members who, what should the church's stance be? What are the messagings we're putting out there? So yeah, that's something we may tackle a little later on in this month. And you guys let us know. Do you want us to talk about that? Do you want that to be one of our topics for this month on the UpSet podcast? And if so, what specifically? Because, we can talk in generalities around right, wrong, and whatever. But if you want us to dive deep into that, let us know. It's also Men's Health Month. I mean, I know, we're getting ready for Men's Health Month. And we always say anytime there's a particular month, it's because it's needed. Men typically struggle with going to the doctor or prioritizing their health. I've heard of several spouses say that it's a headache for them to get their husbands or their significant others to go to their regular appointments to get that special exam that men like to avoid. And so, I mean, it's not just about physical health. I mean, it's about all. So, we want to just put that out there. It's Men's Health Awareness. And we're going to be doing some things with the conference, right, Amy? We're going to be working with Dr. Defoe. We're going to be sharing 10 things that men can do during this month to
better their health.
Yep. So look out for that on our social media.
For one, I'm taking the new Fireside tonic. Thank you.
What is that?
Yeah,
I didn't see it. I didn't see it good.
It is a blend of herbal products that are, I would say, I mean, they are really apple cider vinegar, garlic. It's just a tonic of herbs and things like that.
What is it going to do for you?
Yeah.
Well, what kind of show is this? No, it's actually just an invigorating thing. Beg your pardon?
How often do you take it?
I just started taking it over the last day, and actually, Amy, what you didn't know is I actually died last week. But after taking some of the Fireside tonic, I'm back to do a live show.
I know. See, even Carrie Williams is like, "What kind of tonic?" Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
gosh.
circling back to the LGBTQ conversation, Havis was saying that I didn't know La Sierra University.
Yeah, that was the one I was saying that gave the
Yeah,
recognition.
yeah, and so
It
we
has
definitely need to see. Oh, Anthony has a great suggestion. That could be our first
a fireside tonic. It sure could be.
sponsorship.
It could be
we,
indeed.
we all have to try it first to make sure we can safely recommend that. Uh, but that's cool.
Nobody wants to mention the debt ceiling, I imagine.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Mention
No,
it.
I brought up something. Yeah, your thoughts, Pat or Amy?
I just want to make sure the checks are coming because my wife worked for the government, so and let it keep coming.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about that because I hear that phrase, but it's like for the average person, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Explain it, Tally. What is that?
The United States of America basically makes deals and contracts and services all the world, and they have a budget. The idea back in the days of Clinton, they actually balanced the budget. They had enough money coming in to spend what was going out.
Yeah.
But traditionally, we spend more money than we take in.
Right.
And in
Mhm.
doing that, that means that we have to borrow money to pay for those things that we've already agreed to pay for. There is a law that says that Congress sets that ceiling, and
Mhm.
every year or two, they come to a point where they have to raise the debt ceiling in order to pay the bills for things that they've already purchased or services already provided. The full
Mhm.
faith and credit of the United States is based on the ability to pay its bills, just like you and I.
Yeah.
And so Congress has to raise the ceiling in order to pay the bills. But what happened is our Republican friends, using it as a political chit,
Mhm.
CHIT, for those of you
Mhm.
who did not hear me very well, uh, they they decided to hold up the process and put the full faith and credit of the United States at risk so that they could make some political moves on it. And it was a true crisis
Mhm.
because if we did not raise the debt ceiling tomorrow or the day after, we would start defaulting on certain loans,
Right.
which would
Yeah.
be, horrible.
Mhm. That's right.
Well,
Yeah, and Anthony Daniels is right. Both sides have used it, but not the way the Republicans have weaponized it.
Mm.
It is the equivalent of somebody grabbing your bunny rabbit and pointing a loaded 9 millimeter to their head. Give me the biscuit so the bunny gets it. It's the worst kind of hostage,
Mhm.
and it's time for it to end. We need to make a rule so that this does not happen again and again and again.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. We're trying to help people get out of debt and we're in debt. It's like
Yeah,
seems counterproductive.
yeah. It's.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, we need to jump into our topic because I've been waiting for this one. Because I've been waiting for this one. This is the question that keeps getting asked over and over and over. What do men want? I mean, what? But before I go, Tally, just go ahead and
Well, Father's Day is coming, and I can almost assure most of you what men want is not what you're buying them for Father's Day.
oh,
Women on Father's Day, they get roses, they get, trips and things like that. On Father's Day, most of us get a tie that someone got rid of 10 years ago that you found at the rummage store, or a bottle of high karate or, brute cologne that even roaches run away from now.
mercy.
And so men need more than that. And so right now, we want to talk about considering certain things about the masculine partner in our familial circles. And I would say it this way: we want to ask you to consider the meeting of a man's needs. The meeting of a man's needs. This is a great way to prepare yourself for Father's Day, meeting a man's needs. And we need to understand something. When we talk about needs, we need to get clear on what that means, okay?
Mhm.
Every human being has needs. And the definition that I have seen for needs that I think is best is it refers to what an individual requires in order for them to survive. And I've added in a healthy manner, just
Mhm.
surviving is not enough.
Right.
But your needs are those things that you perceive that you have to have in order to survive. Expert panelists, starting with Amy, who's been doing this for 20 years now. What is something that a human being needs? Just any human being.
Food.
Food. There you go. We all need food. We all need air. We all need water. Things like that. Okay. So these are things that every human being needs. And as a person's needs loom larger in their awareness, they become what we call felt needs. And felt needs are things that we are inclined to act upon. For example, I have sickle cell anemia trait. And at times it will affect me, but I don't know it. And I will have a need to add certain minerals to my body so that I won't cramp up or get into some kind of respiratory distress. But I don't know that. So I don't act upon it until something happens. But felt needs are things that you become aware of, and then you are inclined to act upon them. Now, here's the thing that women need to understand about a man's needs, and that is this, that when a person feels a need, it should be noted that a felt need is acceptable. Whatever the person, if your husband comes to you and say, you know what, sweetheart, I think that I need about 3 other women to join us in the bedroom. The fact that he feels that way is acceptable. The feelings of needs are acceptable. Somebody says, I feel like I want to jump off the Empire State Building. You don't beat them over the head. You don't crush them. You just say, really, tell me why you think you need that. Because a person's feelings of a need is an acceptable thing. Acting on those feelings may not be. And so when we start talking about dealing with a man's needs, we must first acknowledge the fact that it is acceptable for a person to feel certain needs. We start there, okay? Is that good enough? Is that all right?
Yeah, we're
All right,
fine.
we turn the page now, and we talk about a gentleman that most of you, his name is something you may have heard. His name was Abraham Maslow, and Abraham Maslow, back in 1943, came up with a pyramid or a hierarchy of human needs. In other words, things that every human needs and that they need them in a specific order. You have to get one before you can get two. For example, if you're building a house, you got to build the basement before you build the penthouse. If you try to do it in reverse, you're going to have a problem. Penthouse is hanging in the middle of the air. There's no basement underneath. The penthouse falls and crushes and hurts everybody. So there are things that happen in order. In 1943, he advanced this notion, and it's even to this day, it stands that there are 5 specific needs. Now, actually, he went on to say there were 9, but for the sake of this discussion, he said there were 5. He said there were 5 specific needs that all human beings need. And so we're starting off talking about a man's needs by looking at this pyramid of a hierarchy of human needs. The first thing he said is that all human beings need to have their physiological needs met. Amy talked about this a minute ago, which is why we pay her so much to be a part of this team. Food, things like that, water, shelter, sleep. These are physiological creature needs. They're things that we become aware of almost immediately. If you run out the house naked, like Tasha did the other week, you immediately recognize it's cold out here. I need to go in and put some clothing on. I mean, these are physiological needs that people are aware of. Everybody has those needs. They're base needs. They are primary needs. In other words, if you feel like you don't have air and you're naked and there's no air in the room, you will run out of the room naked to get air because those needs are so primary that they move everything else aside. And then after that, there are safety needs. You have to recognize that there's a need for a sense of security in this time where we see all of the shootings and the carjackings going on. People need to feel safe even after they have air, water, food, and shelter. For example, if I'm in a burning building, I will jump off the balcony to try to get safety because my safety needs are required. But as soon as I hit the ground, my physiological needs for needing shelter and water, they come back to me. So first is physiological needs, then there are safety needs. And then going on, we get to those more noble needs that we have, the sense of love and belonging, being connected to other people, having a sense of familial support. No man is an island, the philosopher once said. So after our physiological need, we had a good meal and we're in the house safe. We look around and say, who loved me around these here parts? Is there somebody looking out for Brother Tyler Farrow? Where are they? Somebody gonna hug me in the night? Seriously, is somebody? Okay, moving on now. So this is love and belong. This love and belonging are our emotional, intimate needs. Then after that, there are the higher needs of esteem. It's not enough that people love me, that I'm lovable, but how do people regard me? How do they look at me? How do they perceive me to be as a person of worth and value and status? These are the four needs, and you got to get these things are built one upon the other. And then last but not least, the need that people have, that maybe he says only 5 to 10% of human beings ever get to this final need. He calls this the need of being self-actualized, where you perceive yourself to be doing exactly what you were born to do. Martin Luther King, I have a dream. I've been to the mountaintop. You feel a sense of purpose being accomplished in what you do. You're not just a breathing machine or an eating machine, but you are living out your purpose. All right. Now, those are basic human needs, but it goes on for that for men. I mean, there's more than just those basic human needs. According to Willard Harvey in his book, her needs, he says men have 5 particular needs. Let me run through these pretty quickly. I'm sure you ladies know what they are. Let's take a look at them really quickly, and all of the ladies who are listening. The first thing he says, and this is in no particular order, but they're just 5 needs. Physical attractiveness. He needs to feel that people look at him and perceive him to be physically attractive. Now, that is why, I don't have that need anymore. That's why I don't wear muscle t-shirts anymore, because I don't I don't need you folks to tell me that. Physical attractiveness, and then admiration. In other words, that I have a respect and regard for you that says I perceive you to be a person of worth, that I don't worship you, but whatever lives in the zip code next to worship, that's what's there. Recreational companionship, someone to spend time with doing those things that allow me to feel alive and vibrant. Not simply working, but recreational, those things that allow me to be restored. For Sabbath keepers, that's very important. Sexual fulfillment. Or, as one philosopher once said, boom chicka wow wow. Okay, let's move beyond that. Okay, and last but not, domestic support. In other words,
Hmm.
who's going to help me to build this central unit that I call family? Who's going to be there if I have illness? Who's going to bring me the vegetarian chicken soup, things like that? Now, ladies, I'll ask you, because Pat already knows, because he's a man. He's all sorts of man. Look at that beard and mustache. He's the man's man. But you ladies may not know. Which one of these 5 do you think is the most important to a man, Amy and Tasha?
Hmm.
And there we see the problem in life, ladies and
No,
gentlemen.
no,
Look at
no.
that.
I
Both
was
of
gonna.
them sitting silent, don't know the answer to it. That's why the men ain't happy around Pine Furge.
I
You know.
whatever. I was gonna say my knee jerk response would have been sexual fulfillment, because that's just what is always
Okay,
kind
all
of
Said.
right.
Mhm.
And Amy, you feel the same way?
Yes.
All right. Now,
but
well,
I
see,
think
this
it's
is why the church
admiration.
has
I
to
think it's
pray.
admiration.
Conference workers here, they sense that men are. They have discovered, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that the number one
Yeah,
desire
see?
is
Oh.
admiration.
I knew it.
Do you look at me? And this is why men like dogs. When you open the door, a dog acts like you just hit a 8-run home run. I mean,
Mhm.
you walk through the door, the dog's jumping around like, there he did it again. The door just opened and he walked right through. I mean, that's why men love dogs, because
That's true.
that sense of admiration, that sense of esteem and worth.
Mhm.
And
Man's
you
best
ladies
friend.
have been running around putting on Chanel number 9, thinking that'll do the trick. But it's more than that. Okay. So
Mm.
these are the 5 issues. These are the men's, these are the things that generate needs in men. Now, here's the deal. The problem comes with relationships, particularly, is the fact that a lot of times women and other men, but we're talking now in relationship with women, they don't like the way a man expresses his need. You remember what I said? The expression of a need is not wrong. If a man
Mhm.
says, I think I need to have an orgy, you don't judge or condemn. What you do is you engage. Let me help some ladies who are listening to understand how to deal with a man's needs. I'm not giving you answers. And we'll talk more about this for the rest of the program. Number one, you have to ask yourself, how are you assessing or evaluating this person's need?
Mm.
Are you evaluating their need based upon how you grew up? In other words, if a man says, I feel like I want to stay home and raise the kids and bake cookies. There's no man that I know who bake cookies. I mean, where's that written for you? How are you assessing or evaluating the need? The second thing you need to ask yourself as a person of Christian background, are there any scriptural references to the need in question? Is there a point of reference where you can say, I've seen this before? How has this come across in scripture? Because there are a lot of examples, and we can talk about that as we go on, of things in scripture where the needs of men are expressed or biblical things are stated about men's needs. Now, here's the next one, and this is really important to consider. If there are scriptural references, are those references descriptive or prescriptive? Let me enlarge upon that. A descriptive reference of the Bible is showing what someone did and describing how they did it and what happened afterwards. But that doesn't mean that it is prescribing it for you to do. I'll give you a good example. Jephthah, in an attempt to gain esteem in his community, decided that he would sacrifice his daughter because he had made a rash vow to the Lord. Because he needed the esteem. He said, Lord, if you give me this victory, I'll sacrifice the first thing that comes out my door. Stupidest vow ever made by a man. His daughter comes out the door. And instead of him realizing that he had made a mistake, he said, baby, you got to go because I've made a vow to the Lord and I can't turn back. He sang that song. It was a hit for him, as a matter of fact. But that is not prescriptive. God is not telling the rest of us to make stupid vows and then keep them because we're afraid of what we will lose. So you have to ask yourself, what you're reading in the Bible, is it descriptive or prescriptive? When it says that a woman should sit in silence and listen to her husband, and the man says, you need to be silent and listen to me, is that descriptive or prescriptive? And then last but not, do the requirements of God that speak to the needs of a man, do they alter over a period of time? For example, is the man the head of the household? Does that alter over time? If people say, well, the word of God don't alter, then I want you to think about the fact that the Bible allowed men to have more than one wife. Jacob had 4 wives. Moses had 2. Nobody talks about the other one, but he did. And now if Pat went out and married another woman, and I'm not talking about something that I heard, this is not a rumor, so don't get it started that Pat is going out looking to marry another woman, because I don't think that that's true. That's not true, is it, Pat? I don't think so. But if Pat went out to marry another woman, he'd be fired because we don't allow that. But it was in the scripture, and it was allowable back then. These are the questions we need to consider as we talk about dealing with the needs of men. With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I turn this discussion over to 3 other of the brightest minds that have ever been created on the face of this blue marble, rolling in a parabolic circle around the solar center of our solar system. What say you one? What say you all? Podcaster UpSet members.
Wow. That was I like that list. That was helpful. Listing those 5 things outside of the normal needs of it. And it's funny, I knew it was admiration.
That's why you said sexual fulfillment.
I said my knee jerk was that because that's what people always say.
That wasn't your knee jerk.
But no, honestly, one of the other things I heard was respect. And so I felt like admiration was the closest to respect. Because, in thinking about the needs, of course, initially when you were rolling it out, I was like, okay, well, I need that too. Thinking about what distinguishes a man's needs from a woman's need is interesting to me, because some of the things on the list I could say I need as a woman, but we're not talking about women. So I mean, I'm not really answering a question. I'm just giving a, reflecting on what you shared and what stood out to me. I think I was torn between what a man needs or desires versus what he needs. What a man thinks he needs versus what he actually needs. Is there a distinction? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because a man could, you mentioned some examples. A man could feel he needs that. Could he be skewed in his thinking of needs? Some people say, I thought I needed that, but I realized I didn't, or I didn't know I needed that until I didn't have it. So I guess, I don't know, I'm throwing another question out there. Are these needs across the board? Of course, some men feel differently. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to
The
process.
good thing, Tasha, this is you are right where you need to be, and that is the issue is to allow people. Pat needed to go to the bathroom, I think, but the issue is when a person presents a need, when a man presents a need, or anybody really, but we're talking about men's needs now. When a man presents a need, the issue is not to judge the person. It is to evaluate the need. I mean, for example, why do you think you need that? If a man, when women catch her husbands looking at other women, a lot of times there's a sense of condemnation. Like, what you looking at her for? Something like that. But even worse still, a lot of men don't understand what is the need driving me to this. I mean, what need am I trying to meet? Address the need. Understand what it is teaching you about yourself. Try to figure out, because it is always deeper than simply acting on an impulse. The need is trying to tell you something. Michael Jones wrote down something, not power. Powerlessness is one of the greatest um, factors in misbehavior in men. I feel an absent. If you want to find out why the black community seems to be more violent than the white community, and history has recorded that the most violent people this nation has ever known are white people, by far. History records that. This is not Nick. I mean, Tally making this up. History records it. However, right now, if you look at the jails, black people make up 50% of the jails, while they make up 14% of the population. The vast majority of homicide. And then you say, well, what's driving this? Well, it is need-based. In our communities, people have been deprived of resources and empowerment. And in an absence, in a vacuum of feeling properly entitled for empowerment, we find something that gives us an instant sense of power. When you put a gun in your hand and you point that thing at somebody, and all of a sudden somebody who's been selling you wolf tickets, you see their knees knock and their bladder disposes itself. That is a rush of power that no roller coaster can give you. And that's why we're seeing violence. So, understand what is driving the need, because that will help you to understand some things about yourself.
Yeah, even that power, a lot of people love to be in powerful positions because of the admiration. I mean, because I could see the connection between someone being admired because of their position or their ability to do this or do that. And so I think a lot of them kind of tie into that one. I feel like I need to have that list again. But Jillian was saying too, I guess what I was referencing earlier, a felt need or a need based on societal norms. And we talked about what society tells you need or you should be doing versus what you actually feel you need. Because I think a lot of men have that conflict, especially like when you were talking, Tally, about like the man being a stay-at-home dad or something. Like, people are not ready for that. And sometimes men feel comfortable doing it, but they don't like the pressure that other people put on them for saying, hey, how can you do that, man? That's a woman's thing. Like, so.
If a need is being superimposed upon you from outside of you, and Pat, I'm so glad you're back, because I needed to have another man. I felt
right. You are talking about what men want.
I had to get something to drink to put in here to continue the conversation. Go ahead.
Make sure you blow on it so people don't think it's tea. But if a need isn't superimposed on you from the outside, then the need that they're superimposing upon you is not your need. Your need is your need of feeling accepted or being embraced by others. It's, for example, there are a lot of people who say, man, you should come back and pastor a church. You really ought to come back and pastor a church, man. You really need to come. That's their need.
Right.
If I accommodate them based upon that, it's not because I need to do it. It's because I need to feel accepted by them. That's a completely different thing. Understanding what is driving the need will allow you to have power in your own life.
Yeah, I agree. I want to put this list back up here just so we can look at these needs. I know admiration is number one, but physical attractiveness. And I have to say, I was probably surprised. I know you said it's not in any particular order, but I was surprised that not that it's on the list, but I guess I always see men wanting a physically attractive person on their arm per se, but not necessarily feeling the pressure to be considered physically attractive themselves.
Why do you think the man wants a physically attractive woman?
Because that will make him feel that if
builds his value.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a car. I mean, it is an extension of the way I wish to be viewed, accepted, and acknowledged. If I can pull her, then everybody. I remember, when I first, after going through the end of my marriage, I had a couple of friends who were very, very attractive women. They were, I mean, stunningly attractive, and there was no way, that the kid was going to be, but then we were good friends, and we all went out, and it was a restaurant that I knew pretty well. And you know how women, and I still don't understand this, Pat. When women go to the bathroom and you're out with them, they all have the impulse at the same time. Let us go to the bathroom, and so they both got up and went to the bathroom. And the waiter came over to me with a smile, and he was from a foreign country. He said, "You are just the man, aren't you? You are the man, man. I'm bringing you some extra food." I mean, because I was with these two attractive women, and suddenly I realized that their attractiveness made people view me in a different light.
Sure.
Wow. I want to know for our listening audience, the men particularly as well, if you agree with this list, or can you identify with the list, or do you think something's missing from this list? Even though this is Willard Harvey's list, but I'm curious to see if there's some other thoughts out there. But I think this list is a good list to work from. What are you thinking, Amy? I see you.
Well, I think, this is just from reading stuff or whatever, but I think that nowadays that men are more into how they look in their appearance than they were before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has a lot to do with how the media views men today.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you have to have the muscles, and you have to be slim, you have to be strong, all that stuff. So I could see how being physically attractive would be on that list. I think like going to the gym, like guys are, that's like their thing, and like you gotta look good, even if your face don't look good, your body gotta look good. So something's gotta look good.
That was hard, wasn't it? Man,
I mean, it was just
Amy
like,
just
and then she turned and like while I was in there, like,
I'm not talking about you guys.
Look, you ugly man, at least you ought to work out, she said.
You know what? Havis said something. He said, "Not as we get older." And I see what he means by that. Not as we get older, you don't always look for physical attraction. I think that you when you're valued, or when you feel valued, I can speak for myself. I don't tend to look in the mirror and say, okay, I feel like the man. It's when you feel valued that you have a cheerleader, when you feel valued that there's someone that's driving that value. When that happens, I think that man turns around and says, I don't care what I'm wearing. I don't care what I look like, as long as there's someone that's there that's supporting. And I'm not taking that away from you, Amy, because I think we're all in different age groups where all of us are in different age groups where I remember thinking I remember saying, I need hair. I mean, and I lost my hair at 22. So
really?
22. I remember, everybody just pay attention to Tally. My man came up to me. His name is Robert Peters. He's now a pastor. He's now a chaplain, right? Robert Peters, lieutenant or something like that. He put an S curl in my hair. Yeah, Oakwood, right? Put the S curl in my hair. As soon as he put the S curl, my hair fell out. That was it. I'm bald now forever. You know what I'm saying? But I could remember, and anybody go ahead and call Rob Peters and put him on here. I remember how I felt because bald wasn't in yet.
Mm.
Yeah.
It wasn't, everybody had to cut the fade. And I remember saying, I need more. I remember lifting weights
Mhm.
and every time I lifted weights, I got sick. I mean,
Wow.
I'm talking about like, because my resistance fell. I remember all of that. But after a while, as you look for value in something else or somewhere else, I don't admiration is the big deal.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's the big push. It does something to your esteem. Man, this is bad to say, but it's true. It does something for your esteem when someone shows you respect.
It does.
When when you reach certain achievements and there's a pat on your back that says, great job. It does something totally different.
Mhm.
I think that even now you have men who feel the need to buy a big car. Well, there's something else going on there. Or have the need to dress up in the latest gear or whatever it might be. There's something that's wanting on that side.
Mhm.
So when I think about the needs of men, and I'm looking to this, what is it that men need? What is men need to know that they're men.
Mm.
And what does
And
that
what
mean?
makes a man a man?
Yeah. Doesn't having children, having many women, being able to exercise
Being
authority
strong,
over other men. Yeah.
So
working out.
and I'm sorry that we have to think that way, but it depends how you've grown up. It depends, the cultural background of where you are. You're right, because if you had children, or you're able to have children, or your name's going around like you're some stud muffin, then that's one thing. But what about the need of going to school, or the need of taking care of your family, supporting your home? It does something for a man to walk in and say, honey, you don't got to go to work,
It
or
does. Yeah.
I'll take care of you. Everything's going to be okay. And it
Mhm.
actually does something to you when it there's a sense of value that you have there. I think if
Mhm.
my wife came home and said, ugh, like Amy just did to us, ugh, you know,
I was just
Needs to
giving
work
an
out.
example.
you need to lift weights. I can see your
Yeah.
ribs.
I,
I
I
can
can
send
take
you
the
into
fact that
depression.
Amy says, I don't mind the fact that you're so ugly that you
Ugly.
curdle my milk.
But you
But if
got
you don't go to the
muscles.
gym, I mean, it's
So
it- it-
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
um,
Somebody else was gonna say something.
No, we're still trying to get over Amy's.
yeah,
It's okay. It's the truth.
ugly muscle men. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at Delphina's comment. Thanks for watching from Ottawa, Canada.
All right.
She was saying, I think admiration and respect. A man wants to feel a woman understands and appreciates him, which made me think that admiration that we're talking about and respect, is that just from a woman or also from other men?
It's from
that's a good question.
it's from your circle of acceptance, the constellation of your concerns, the people who make up that constellation. However, the closer you get to your own heart and soul, as the circle becomes more intimate, the more you wish to have that admiration and respect from children, from coworkers,
Mhm.
and nobody is closer to you than the person who shares with you a bed and a life in your heart. But admiration and respect means, when it comes to needs, it means when a man presents a need, a felt need, it is not meeting him with judgment, condemnation, or shame.
Sure.
Mhm.
It means that you say to him, I didn't know you needed that. Tell me why you feel you need that. For example,
Mhm.
if I'm going to be very ridiculous now. If a man says, I really feel that I should have an intimate relationship with a 12-year-old girl.
Oh.
Now, we all know that he'll go to jail for that. I
Right.
mean, and that is
That's fine.
totally unaccepted.
Mhm.
But to express a need is not the same as saying, I want to do evil. It's simply saying, I feel this need. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean that he needs a sense of empowerment. What does, and so admiration and respect says to the person, I respect the fact that you feel this. Why do you think you feel this? And then after going through that process, saying, well, that is something that you cannot do. So how can we find ways to address the meta need, the need beneath what you're
I was
feeling?
just going to say that, Tally.
Yeah.
Tally, I was just going to say that every man wants to be stable, wants to live, wants to be stable, level-headed, right? And more than that, wants to be emotionally stable, emotionally mature, right? And
Yeah.
whatever gives that to them. I know this is not just women. It's work, right? It's how your neighborhood, your community sees you. It's being that member in church as a man, that member in church that people will say, I like this guy, or I like something about him. Everything is value. It's either your
Yeah.
value is climbing or your value is dropping, and that can happen in a full day. You can go to work and your value is low. You feel like your value is low. You come home, your value is low. You're driving on the street, the police pull you over, your value they devalue you, and so it brings the morale of a man or your manhood down. Everything is not sexual. But
You need to say that again for our two panelists
Hey.
No, but it's true. Even men think this way, and it's immature. It's immature for men to think that everything is sexual. Everything is not sexual. There could be other fulfillment. There are people, Tally. There are people who lose their husband or lose their wives, and I'm talking about through death.
Yeah.
1 year later, 80-something years old, they get married. Right? No, but this has happened. We've seen it.
Oh, I've seen it.
That's on the list.
And then you turn around and you say, are you kidding me? What is it? It's because even in that friendship, that person made them feel valuable, that they want them as a life companion. It's not about bed, right? It's about support. It's not about what they look like. It's about how did I feel fulfilled because you're in my presence.
Yeah.
Because you're there. And that's where that life partner thing comes in. Because after a while, the Bible tells us that certain things fade away. So if those things fade away, what is it that you're going to be living on in the last 10 years or last 15 years or 20 years of your life?
And when they say things fade away, people say see sex after a while. And it is not the act of sex that is all that sex is. I mean, a guy who's paralyzed in a wheelchair can still need sex. He may not be able to achieve certain physical capacities to have certain levels of intercourse, but the idea of being desired and wishing to achieve the ecstasy that comes with the connection with another human being that allows me to escape the tyranny of my narrow existence. Is there anybody writing this down? The tyranny of my
narrow
because that's what sex is about. Sex is that I have found another person who allows me to escape the borders of my own self, and to merge with them into a place where two become one, and that explosion of intimacy is what we perceive and feel in the act of sexuality.
Sure.
And so there's more to it just than the act. It is the sense of you desire. What sex provides is you desire me, you trust me enough to yield yourself to me, you are willing to uncover and have no secrets with me, and in that way you display a greater sense of trust. And then last but not least, you receive me for who I am as I am. I mean, these things are actually very spiritual.
Right.
And the act is a reflection, or should be a reflection, of the spiritual realities. Do you know me? Do you see me? Do you receive me? But we have to allow desire to teach us to go deeper than our actions, and to recognize that sometimes our actions can actually cloud. For example, I had a guy who my church has said, tearfully. See, Pastor, I got a sexual addiction. And his wife is sitting there, she's crying. I have a sexual addiction, man. I can't help myself. I got to. I said, well, you didn't tell me that. I said, if you have a sexual addiction, then this is completely different. He said, is it? Yes. I said, absolutely. You have a sexual addiction. His wife is getting horrified, like, don't tell him that. I said, no, we have to accommodate that. He says, really? Yes. I said, listen, from now on, anytime you need sex, you need to call your wife. She'll come home. He said, no, not her. I mean, I
Oh,
have a
Lord.
sexual addiction. I
Right.
said, oh no, it's not a sexual addiction then.
That's
You know,
right.
Mhm.
That's
there's
right.
something else that's driving you. And so
You keep saying that meta thing, that other thing,
the other thing,
that
the
other
thing
thing.
beneath the thing.
And
Yeah.
I think I think what it is that we have to know ourselves, and that is the key to knowing what drives you,
What drives you?
your
Yeah.
value.
Mhm.
What is it? You know, because the truth is that I want to be a millionaire, but it's not because I want things why I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire to be comfortable. There's a difference.
You're not comfortable now?
I'm not a millionaire.
I didn't ask that. Aren't you comfortable?
That's his
Apparently
need.
not. He's not a millionaire.
You know, Tally, that's a great question, because the truth is that to others that may have what I have, they may be comfortable. So then what is driving me to get more?
Right. What allows the arbitrary measurement of being a millionaire to make you feel that you will be comfortable?
Exactly. It's
Mhm.
just the same way where you're talking about this guy. It's like, I got a sexual addiction. I got a sexual, but not her. Well, $1 million, but for what?
For what?
For
Yeah.
what? What is it? What is it for? And I think that even though this, why I like as this comes up to Father's Day is because we have a tendency of talking about what man's needs are, and then immediately some of our minds go to a sexual type thing, or
Some of us. Yes.
Listen, statistics say it's on you guys' mind. How many? Like every minute?
That's another show, but yeah, okay. But here's the thing: when I think about Father's Day
Statistically
coming up, and I really think about this, even those who are dating, it doesn't have to be Father's Day because we're talking about men, right?
Right.
The question is, this is true. The question is, what turns the wheel in that man, that brother? Let's not go into that type of intimacy. That brother, what is it that I would give to my brothers for Father's Day? Even if it's not something, to be able to, after we preach, Tally, my brothers, after we preach,
yes, sir.
No one could lift your spirits up or bring your spirits down.
That's true.
More than a person you trust.
Yeah. Your intimate partner.
Yeah. Tally, listen, a person you trust. Okay. The reason why I'm not even going intimacy, because it could be my brother. I heard your sermon today, and what were you trying to say? No,
I mean, there's a circle of intimacy there.
Right.
I'm not saying
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I shouldn't even said that. See, I went against what I was saying before. So you're right about that. When you trust someone with your value. You trust them with who you are. So if you have an achievement or you are looking for a boost, men will be more emotionally attached to those who give that boost, male or female. Doesn't matter.
Especially at the point of performance exhaustion. By that, for example, when a man, as a preacher, when you finish a sermon, your soul is laying out there on the floor. You've poured out everything.
Sister White says that.
The person who then can speak to the emptiness that's there and to provide the reward for it becomes valued. Now, what happens, a lot of pastors, they get into a thing where that person does that, and then they feel drawn to the person. And because we can mistake things, we will mistake that being drawn to them as a sexual appetite.
Sure.
And we might act on it that way because we just don't know enough. We haven't worked through what our real desire is. If people sit with their desires, see, the thing that identifies most with God in human beings is desire. God has no need, but God does have desire, which is why God says he wants to bring us to a place where he can give us the desires of our
Our
hearts. And,
hearts. Yeah.
we have to learn how to refine our desires and yield them so that God can reward us by speaking to those things that desire us. Because the thing that makes desire so extraordinarily gifting to the human soul is that it causes us to transcend ourselves. If a man has desire, he's willing to move beyond his comfort to go to a next step. And so desire has to be kindled and nurtured, but also refined. And God says, I want to answer your desires, but you have to know what they are, understand how they move you and what they really represent.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to show this list again because I know some people just joined us. And I wanted to actually look at recreational companionship because, one of the biggest complaints, I heard it when I was single, I hear it now, is sometimes men are very comfortable. I'm talking about in romantic relationships, just dating, like committing to marriage and stuff is not necessarily necessary for them. And as I'm looking at this list, recreational companionship, if someone feels admired, if someone has recreational companionship, feels physically attractive, I mean, of course, the sexual fulfillment piece is, marriage should be required.
So
But
did you say maybe required?
I said, let me fix that. Should be required.
Oh, okay. I just thought I'd ask,
And even not necessarily even domestic support, because there's some women who'll come and clean a man's house and, stock up his fridge and stuff. So I'm wondering, looking at this list, if that has something to do with it. If a woman is fulfilling 4 out of these 5 needs, and, the man may be fulfilled, maybe that's why marriage or commitment isn't necessarily something that's always at the forefront of men's minds. Am I off here, or what do you guys think about that? I mean,
men love commitment.
okay.
And want to, the men that men respect most are men who have demonstrated commitment far beyond the norm. We love Michael Jordan because he would shoot 1,000, foul shots a day, 1,000 jump shots. He was committed. We have monuments up to soldiers who have run up hills facing machine gun fire, wearing uniforms because they were committed. We write books about people who have gone through extraordinary pressures to live in accordance with ideas and ideologies, like Martin Luther King, because they are committed. What men hate is surrender. And very often women confuse surrender for commitment.
Wow.
So a man, if a woman is engaged dealing with a man, the man wants to be committed. He loves being committed. But you can't make him feel that he is going to be surrendered. And he has to understand that too. It's not just a woman's thing. He has to understand that as well. Because we want to feel that we are completely with someone and someone is completely with us. Sex allows that for a moment. And then the fear of surrendering causes a man to try to run away somewhere. He jumps out and runs like the house is on fire. And if the woman allows that, then he will learn how to cheat himself out of the glories of commitment. So we have to confront these things with honest dialogue.
Yeah. I was looking at Rodney was saying that he thinks it depends on the man, that most men at some point want to get married, but they have to be ready. But he also said that a lot of times men desire to commit a little later than women sometimes in relationships.
I'm sorry, Tally, I wanted to say this also. I'm come from the discipline of Sigmund Freud. And I think that there's a lot that we watch as kids or children. So if you come from a family that you don't see the commitment,
that's true.
If you come from a neighborhood or a community that you don't see the commitment, it's almost that you have to learn how to you have to learn how to be committed towards something. And when I say that, the worst part of all of this is that there's something within all of us, especially as men, that drives the decisions that we make. There's something that's there that that when you feel as though you have lost power even over
Yeah.
yourself.
Surrender.
You know, I do, I made a statement in church on Sabbath, and I was talking about Haran, how Terah stopped in Haran before going to Canaan, and he died there, right? Genesis 11, 31, 32.
Oh, preach
And
that thing.
in that thing, I was
Say
telling
God.
I was telling, what I was saying there was that many times we stop in a place where we're comfortable because we understand the comfortability of that thing. We're used to that, right? So if I live in an environment where everyone says, "Oh, you're the man, you're great, you're okay, you're driving a fat car, you're doing this, that, and the other," you're in Haran and you're at a place where you are comfortable. You don't want to move on to the Canaan land because you're comfortable in that spot. So go ahead, Tal.
No, I'm just listening to, because preachers preach their own story a lot. And one of the things I'm hearing, I've known Pat for a minute, is that comfort, there's something in his life where comfort has become either a desired goal or something that he fears not could be taken away. Because notice his sermon, notice his thoughts about, I want to be a millionaire because I want to be
comfortable.
Yeah. And it's just this is what happens when you refine the desires that move you. And now listening to Pat, I'm hearing the fact that comfort is something that drives him, that moves him. The idea of having his family comfort, making sure that nothing can disturb them. Now, of course, what Pat doesn't know is that there's nothing in this world that guarantees that.
That's right.
You can only get close to it.
That's right. That's right. And what's the hard part about that is that the end of the sermon says you got to be uncomfortable when God sends you somewhere else. You have to be. It puts you in an uncomfortable situation. The point I'm making with that, when we get back to where a man is that there's something that drives our decisions. There's something that drives us to be comfortable or to be in a place that says, I'm content. There's the word I'm looking for. I'm content, right? And yet you want to be valued in contentment. You want to be valued in whatever your feelings may be or whatever it is. I just think that when it comes to the needs of man, one of the biggest needs of man is what system is loyal to me? Which community is loyal to me? Which friendships is that loyal to me? There's a big thing in emotional loyalty also. Guys, we can go on and on over needs of men.
Yeah, because y'all need a lot. No, it's fine. But no, Michael Elder Cox said, I believe the list changes based on how a man's desire changes. And we've heard other people say different stages of life, the needs, go different. And I was thinking about, and I wanted to ask Amy this, we hear these gentlemen talking here about men and what they want. In your circles, this is a different generation. In your circles, do you feel like the younger men have that same mentality? I mean, has that been your experience?
I feel like it differs for different men. Boys, men. Well, we're talking about men, so but it still differs. I do feel like at a certain age, I have noticed that there are some that are like ready and want commitment, and some of them that want commitment but don't know what that actually means. And so, they go about their lives like trying to find someone. And I mean, I was at Andrews, and there's a lot of seminarians at Andrews, and that was like the thing at Andrews. Like seminarians are like always trying to find someone, and everybody is like, wondering. Everybody, they were always telling me like, stay away from them because that's all they want. Like they just want a wife, like da da da. And I was just
Wow,
like,
isn't that
okay.
horrible? They just want
It was kind of horrible. It was, but
What's
be
gotten
light
into
skinned.
them?
They gotta be light skinned. They gotta play the piano. They gotta teach. They gotta,
yes, like,
Yeah,
and
they
then
wanted to
there's
check a
these
box.
categories that women have to make to be in that wife material for
Mhm.
them as well. And but yeah, I mean, there are some that are like really ready, and what I've noticed is that a lot of them are very cautious,
Hmm.
I would say. Very
Uh-oh.
cautious
I'm seeing some of the brethren.
about
Miguel was saying sometimes we're not ready for what we want, but Grissom said when he was at the seminary, girls flocked to seminary halls, and
He
but
said, "Who was looking for who?"
here's
I
the thing. I
mean,
mean,
I'm
we
just
have to
telling
do
you
it.
what I was told when I got there.
Yeah,
So,
I heard
Did you
that
date
and
too.
any
honestly,
seminarians?
there
Hey,
was no one else. There was like, because
Well,
seminaries is like the biggest population
you're saying
at
there were no
Andrews.
other men at Andrews except
No,
seminarians?
no, no. I'm saying that that was the majority of people that I met at
Mhm.
Andrews. Like
Did you
it's
date
it's
any
hard not
seminarians?
to.
She didn't like the communication digital
Yeah.
guys. She ain't
Did,
like
did,
There was hardly any. I'm just being
did you
frank.
Sally
date
trying to
any?
put you on the spot.
I did
Did you?
date.
Okay. And
So
did you find that all they wanted was a wife, or did they just want company like everybody else?
there was some that did want a wife. Yes,
That's a good thing.
had um I had some that really was like, well, this is what I want, but I'm not so sure, whatever, that kind of thing. And then there were some that were looking for companionship mostly, and then there were some that weren't really looking. So,
Mm,
it was like it differs for each
Well,
people, like it differs.
right.
But I have noticed that a lot of them, were not only um they were really like they were looking, but I felt like a lot of them were really like they had their lists, like they were looking.
Yeah, and if you didn't check off all the boxes, then next
yeah,
kind of
women
And
say
I
that all the
encountered a
time.
lot of guys like that, and
I-
so
I'm going to
yeah,
extend the time just a
I
moment because we go ahead, Amy, because we have to. Women always say, "Men, check off the box," and then
No,
the
we have
next
our list.
I'm
conversation.
not saying anything about,
Yeah.
we were talking about men right now. We're
Oh,
talking about men. We're not talking about women. We're talking
no,
about men, and this
I'm
is
just simply,
this
I'm simply saying that human beings have boxes that they check. I mean,
that is true. I
women will
agree.
come as a pastor. Women will come crying, Pastor, I'm just looking for. I'm looking for a man. I just want somebody. And then here it comes. The left jawbone trembles, the right eye sheds one crystal tear, and I'm just looking for somebody to love me for me, and they get that, and so. You say, I have somebody I'd like for you to meet. But what kind of job does he have? Where does he work? Is he tall? Is he got
Mm.
I mean, they have the same boxes
Did you
that
say Tally if he's tall? I just
is
asking you that.
yeah,
Is
is he
that my
tall?
name? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is
I
he
Tall,
just,
dark,
tall?
and handsome.
Does he have a job? Where's he from?
I mean, it is true. I think
Everybody has
both sides
boxes.
have lists, but I was trying to answer the question for just men, just so you know.
yo,
And
listen, Amy
I was
about to get Cayman
answering the
Island on
question.
us.
Yeah, she is.
Yes, I'm answering the question for what I have noticed of men that I have encountered, and that is
Miguel,
all.
Miguel.
The
Miguel is
current
on
feeling.
fire today. Pastor Surratt, one of the best young preachers I know. But
He says
here's
short
here's the
kings
thing.
deserve love too.
That's right. Here's the thing when it comes to desire. This
Mhm.
is this is it, first of all, and we didn't even get into biblical examples a whole
Yeah.
lot. We talked about a couple, but when it comes to desire, and that is if you act upon them, will your actions go beyond the boundaries of what the commitment can bear? For example, if I go to the bank and say, "Hey, listen, my name's Tally and I need $5,000. Give me the money." They will say, "You don't have an arrangement with us that allows us to act on that request."
Mm.
Every man and woman needs to ask that question about their own desire when they're with each other. If I am dating XYZ, or if I'm going out with so and the person says, "I need you to swing from the chandelier, naked, dripping with honey, and then fall in a bed full of sesame seeds so that we can roll around again. You have to ask
Okay,
yourself, do we have a relationship?
Tally,
Yes.
you okay?
Yeah, I'm taking it to a
Interesting.
limit here.
No, go ahead.
Do
Go
we
ahead.
do we have first of all, if you're married, and he said, you have to ask, why do you feel that way? But if you're not married, you have to say to this man, does our relationship, does our commitment have the strength or the boundaries of our commitment? Will it comprise? Can it contain the action that you're requesting? Just like I wouldn't give $5 to a guy on the street that I met. I would give either of you $5 because of the relationship that we share. And so
You
that's
know
the
what I got
first
from
thing.
you, Tally, from the very beginning of this show
What that is.
is that I hear the tonic in the back, but
It is, man. I'm telling you.
Is that every feeling should be validated.
Should be validated. Yes.
Should be able to walk through what a person is feeling or
what's
what
driving
going
that
through.
feeling.
Right. Or even that person. That's what I was going to say. We're talking about, we talked Men's Health Month and even mental health. Sometimes men have needs or they have desires, but they don't ask that question. Like they don't go through that process that you're talking about, Tally, to say, why do I have this need? What is driving this? Because I think when you start asking yourself that question, it reveals a lot, not just to you, but possibly to your spouse and those around you. So I think that was one takeaway. I think that we kind of want to put out there. It's not bad to have a need or to express a need, but it may be bad to act on that need if it's not appropriate, but you still need to do a little bit more digging to figure out what was I really desiring from this need. And I thought that was great.
It's time to land the plane, but let's just be respectful and dialogical in addressing the needs of the men in our lives and try to listen and realize that sometimes the need is just the surface of something that's driving deeper.
That's right. Thanks, Tally. And thank you all for chiming in.
Is Amy coming back? I don't know. Is she coming back?
She'll come back for what women want. No.
Carrie made me laugh. That River City tonic.
Yeah, she did.
I like your tonic over there.
Yeah.
Honestly, Amy, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah,
nice to have you, Amy.
Joining us.
Well, I feel like I learned a lot. I was here listening to all you guys, what you guys were saying, So.
Excellent, dear.
All right. I'm just going to throw that list up one more time because you said this is our pre-Father's Day. So when you're thinking about how to celebrate Father's Day this year, maybe look at some of the things on this list and see how we can, bring some of those out. Physical attractiveness, admiration, recreational companionship, sexual fulfillment, and domestic support. So thanks for that.
I feel like we need a list of what fathers need as well, because
like practical things. That's
yes, like what exactly
you want gift cards
does your father want?
Right.
Anyway.
All right, guys.
I'll send my list in.
Okay.
All right. And like I said, thank you everybody for tuning in. I'm still reading your comments. And don't forget to check out the ones on Facebook and YouTube, no matter where you're watching. We don't want you to forget about our UpSet store. Please continue to support those who have gotten their products. Please send us a picture of you wearing your stuff. We wanted to highlight you as well. And I know we're still making that announcement about our first giveaway. We're still trying to narrow down which entity, which school is going to receive the funds. So please don't forget to support the store. You can do that on our website. Visit ac.org/upset. Well, guys, it's been a great discussion. Thank you, men, for pouring out your hearts and being vulnerable and allowing us to learn a little bit this evening. It's been a great discussion.
Awesome.
All right. We'll see you back here, same time, same place, because if it's Sunday,
it's the UpSet podcast.
I was nice. It's Amy Welcome Day.
Yeah.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
I know Pastor Graham had to be